Throughout the election season, from the primaries all the way through this week, there have been ongoing revelations about both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump that have revealed through investigative reporting and WikiLeaks. These revelations have impacted the campaigns and the candidates' reputation. Maggie Miller is in the studio with more. Maggie?
Today we are joined by Charles Lewis, a professor in the School of Communications at American University and executive editor for the Investigative Reporting Workshop at American University. Thank you for joining us today.
Sure, happy to be here.
Thank you. So let's first talk about the Debbie Wasserman Schultz WikiLeaks emails, which led to Schultz having to step down from her role as the Democratic National Committee chairperson this summer. We have an example of one of the WikiLeaks emails indicating Debbie Wasserman Schultz never supported the Bernie Sanders campaign. One of Hillary Clinton's main challenges since winning the Democratic nomination for president has been to win over Bernie Sanders supporters. However, the Schultz email link that revealed that the DNC may have actively worked to nominate Clinton over Sanders did not help win Clinton's support. Overall, how would you say this leak impacted her campaign?
Well, I mean, overall, I don't know how much. It was a little bit of a mini brouhaha during the political convention. Anyone who knows politics at the national level knows that Wasserman Schultz was tight with the Clintons for decades. And so it wasn't, to a lot of folks who follow politics, it wasn't that shocking. It obviously was inappropriate, but it also came from leaks that are still under some question about where they came from and who leaked them. Was it the Russians? Who was it? And so I think altogether, given the battle-weary nature of this campaign and so many incidents like this, which are in several dozen at this point, I mean, that's just a snippet of one of many. I don't think that at that point, Bernie Sanders had already endorsed Hillary Clinton, or was about to during the convention, and while there were still disillusioned supporters, it didn't, that was basically a few-day story at most in the grand scheme of a circus that we've been witnessing.
Yes, circus would be a good word, I think.
Yeah.
So in response to the Schultz WikiLeaks issue, Donald Trump actually posted a tweet on Twitter in which he said leaked emails of DNC show plans to destroy Bernie Sanders, mock his heritage, and much more online from WikiLeaks, really vicious, rigged. Out of all the revelations about Hillary Clinton during the course of her campaign, what would you say has had the most impact, positive or negative, including this WikiLeaks scandal?
That's hard to say. There's been so many things. I think that the Attorney General launching an investigation a few weeks ago, which is not one of the things you mentioned, but normally that's not a good thing for a major party candidate to have that occur. And so that's highly irregular by any standard, and it's unclear. It did sort of change the momentum factor, I think, for Clinton. We're not sure what the net effect will be. With or without the FBI director then days later saying it's okay. And so I mean, this is a wild time here. So it's really hard to assess one over another. We've had so many of these, and when we have the longest presidential campaigns on planet Earth, and we have the most expensive ones. And when you're campaigning for a year and a half to 2 years, which is crazy, the term of office is 4 years. It's hard to keep track of all these things, not just by journalists, but by the public. It's like, there they go again. What'd they do today? I mean, it's almost a sitcom more than a presidential election. And so I think when you look at the din and how thick it is with all of this static and all of these things happening, it's very hard to single one out as dispositive that totally changes everything. There's so much of this now. It's probably the most bizarre. I've written books about presidential elections and covered several, and this is some other place, otherlandia, call it whatever you want. We've never seen anything remotely like this, and it's incredibly interesting, but nuts, I would say.
Well, of course, Hillary Clinton was not the only person that
Sure.
had famous issues come up in her campaign. We're going to turn the discussion towards Donald Trump and his many controversial moments. There have been a few that have surfaced, some scandals you could call them. Specifically, we're going to talk about Trump's tax returns. We still don't know what his most recent tax returns look like, although the New York Times did obtain documents showing his returns from 1995. And this tax return indicates that he declared a $916 million loss, substantial enough to legally avoid paying taxes for up to 18 years. How would you say this particular information impacted his campaign?
Well, no, I think it was pretty substantial. It's huge because every major party nominee since 1976 has released their tax returns, and for him not to do it has offended many people, their sensibilities, their post-Watergate sensibilities. People expect some transparency about their presidential candidates. He defiantly said he wouldn't do it, and then everyone began to suspect it's because he hadn't been paying taxes, and sure enough, he hasn't been. So I actually think that's a rather notable part of the whole campaign trajectory here, but it, in a way, just that's only one of many with Trump, as you well know. It's the women, it's the not paying taxes. There's so many of these, and also false statements made by both candidates. PolitiFact has found 4 times more false statements than Clinton by Trump, and so this is we've never had a game show host, billionaire, celebrity run for president and get the nomination, and we've never seen anything like this remotely by one campaign of all these scandals and still being close. That's really extraordinary.
Yes. Would you say that is the tax returns is the most controversial issue in Trump's campaign, or something else?
Well, there's so many. I mean, then there's the 9 or 10 women who came forward. I don't know. Honestly, it's very hard to pick one. I mean, we've had a good number of these things come up. Or what about discriminating against African Americans with his housing projects? That was done by investigative reporting by the New York Times. Or what about Trump University being a kind of a trumped up outfit to begin with? Or, I mean, how many examples? There's so many of these where this is not typical and it has a bizarre quality to the public, regardless of their politics. It's just, you just can't use a phrase to describe this. It's off the charts.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Professor,
Sure.
and thank you for so well summing this up,
Sure.
all the
Sure.
issues. That was Professor Charles Lewis from the School of Communication at American University and Executive Editor for the Investigating Reporting Workshop here as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up next, the millennial vote. Leaders from American University College Republicans and Democrats are here to break down the millennial vote. Will Bernie Sanders supporters support Clinton or Trump? Are they motivated to get out to vote? A roundtable discussion after the break.